Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Eza Elhanis binti Anuwar. My metric number is A1800886. So now I will explain for activity 1. Here we can see the circuit for activity 1. So as you can see here, we have push button 1, push button 2 and lamp. So before we run the simulation, we need to click debug instance here. So click first, and then after we click debug instant, we need to click this button to start PLC simulation. Okay, so we need to turn on the PB1 and then turn on the PB2. So as we can see here, this connection will light up the lamp. So that's all for activity 1. We will explain for the next activity, which is activity 2. Okay, so now as you can see here is the activity 2. We also have push button 1, push button 2, and this time we use siren instead of lamp. So as you can see, the push button 1 is negative. Before we run the simulation, we need to debug instant first. Okay, after we click debug instant, we need to start PLC simulation. Alright, so we need to turn on the PB push button 2. So as you can see here, the siren will be turned on. Okay, that's all for activity 2.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Dhiya Batrisyia binti Rosmadi. So I am going to do the simulation of the activity 3. So the first one, we need to insert the name first, and the language we select the LD. And then we need to add the item, which is the first one we have PB1. The type is we choose as bool, and documentation we need to type is push button 1. Then we have PB2, and this one is push button 2. And then we have next item is lamp. Documentation is output lamp 1. And then we need to add first the power rail, which is left power rail here. And then we need to add PB1, select the variable PB1, and then PB2, which is negative, variable PB2, and the last one we have lamp, which is the coil, variable is lamp, and then the last one is we need to end it with the right power rail. So we move it here, and then we connect the circuit. After we connect it, we need to run. Okay, you can see here the PLC has started, and then we need to debug instant the circuit. You can see that there is connection only for this one, and we need to force through the circuit. Then we can see that there is connection, which is the light is green, then the lamp is light up. Then for the activity 4, we need to change the PB1 with the negative. for variable PB1. Okay, we move it here and we connect the circuit like usual and then run the circuit. Okay, we can see that the PLC has start and start a back, and then we debug instant the circuit. We can see that the circuit have the good connection, that it will light up the lamp. And then when we force through the PB1, we can see that there is no connection for the lamp.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Ahmad Danial bin Muhammad Fauzi and my matriculation number is CE1800885. So today I'm going to explain the exercise 5 electro-pneumatic and its integration with relay. So in this experiment I will explain activity 5 till 6 and activity 11 till 12, and I will explain some of the questions that have been given. So we jump to the next slide. So we'll look at activity 5. In this activity 5, there is a timer on existing in the ladder diagram. The timer is set in 5 seconds, which means when the timer on triggered, the impulse will start to count till 5 seconds and the lamp over here will turn on. So next, activity 5 and activity 6, the ladder diagram consists of contact relays and timer on. When the push start button is in close contact, it will trigger the timer on to start. After the timer on reach 5 seconds, it will trigger the contact relay over here and will make the lamp to turn on. In this activity, it shows that timer on is to make the delay for 5 seconds before the lamp is turning on.
And for the activity 7, we have to add the relay R1, which is stand for the relay 1, and then we have timer for output timer 1, and then for the first circuit, first we have to add the power rail, which is we have the 4-pin number, and then we need to put the PB1, and then we have PB2, negative PB2, we have relay here for R1, and then we have the variable contact, which is R1, and then we have R1 again here for the contact, and the last one we have the timer here, then we have the variable of timer for the coil, then we have the coil of the variable lamp. We need to end the circuit with the right power with 4-pin number. And then we need to add the timer for T on here for 5 seconds. Connect the circuit first. We have the variable for input for timer, which is we need to type it as the T hashtag 500 millisecond. Then we connect it to the binti. Then we can run the circuit first. And then we debug instant. We can see that the circuit have no connection. And then I try to force through the PB1, then it will have the right connection and light up the lamp after the timer is 5 seconds. For the activity 8, we need to remove the PB1 here and we need to add the counter. When we add the counter, we need to add the variable 3 here for the counter. And then connect it to the PB2. After that, we run the simulation and we debug instant. We can see that the connection only until input the counter, relay 1 and timer. And when I force through the relay 1 and timer, it will light up the lamp and it have a connection here.
Okay, now we move on to the next activity, which is activity 9. So here we have push button 1, push button 2. Push button 1 stand for push button start, and push button 2 stand for push button stop. And then we have relay 1 and the output lamp 1. Okay, so here is the circuit that we have connect with each other. We need to click the debug instant. After we click here, we need to start the PLC simulation here. Okay. Alright. So this push button, I will turn on the push button start. The push button 2 will be turned off. We also need to turn on the relay. So we got the result. The lamp is light up. So that's all for activity 9. We will move to the next activity, which is activity 10. Okay, now we have the circuit for activity 10. We have 7 components here. The first one is push button 1, push button 2, push button stop, and then relay 1, relay 2, lamp 1, and lamp 2. Okay, so here is the circuit, and before we run the simulation, we need to debug instance, and after we we click the debug instance, we need to start the PLC simulation. Okay, here we click the PLC simulation. Okay, alright, okay, after we run the simulation, we need to click at the push button 1. We need to turn on, and then the relay 1 also we need to turn on. Okay, so we can see here only output lamp 1 is turned on. So we need to turn on the push button 2 also, and relay 2. Okay, so we can see the result. Both output lamp has light up. So that's all from me. Thank you.
So next in activity 11, this circuit is consist of a counter and a timer on. So push start button will turn on. Push start button 1, which is we assume as start button, will turn on, and push start button 2, which is stop, will turn off. This procedure have to repeat uh, in 3 times because the counter is set in 3 times. The counter represent in this diagram will count until 3 times and it will trigger the time on. The timer that had been triggered from the counter here will start to count till 5 seconds, and after that relay 2 here over here will trigger the counter to be a reset, which means it will turn to 0, and it will make the whole process in reset, which is in reset. And activity 12, there is a counter and timer on, counter and timer on, some contact relays over here. Before we push on the push start button 1, we have to make sure that the reset button is in open contact. Then we push the button 1, push start button 1. When the push start button 1 is on, relay 1 will be trigger the pulse and send to input counter, and it will count as 1. As you all know, we've set the counter to 1. Then the R3 relay coil 3 will trigger, and the lamp will turn on. Lamp 1 will turn on. When the R3 is triggered, the close contact over here, R3, also will trigger the input pulse to the timer on. The timer on will reach to 5 seconds, and the lamp will turning on. To make sure this process end, we have to push the reset button, and the counter will reset to 0. Next, turn on the push start button 2, which is stop, and the process will immediately end. So we jump to the questions given. So the first question given, give three examples of electro-pneumatic applications in industry of real life application. So we've got air compressor, exercise equipment, vacuum pump. Next, what is the function of adding sensor in the applications? Sensor is a device that converts the physical signals such as pressure, temperature, flow, speed, and etc. to electrical signal. Sensors send incoming signals, either digital or analog, to PLC, and PLC use this signal to open or close valve. There are a lot of types of sensors such as inductive, capacitive, temperature, optical, and etc. That is all from me. Thank you.